Hey everyone, and welcome to the Brentwood Baptist Leadership Podcast. I'm Mack Burns, and this podcast exists to equip church leaders and teams with practical tools for everyday ministry, all leading up to the Elevate Church Conference on September 21st and 22nd, 2026. Every episode we're releasing in March is focused on worship ministry, and today we're talking about leading your worship team well, specifically culture, communication, and care. I'm joined by Travis Cottrell, our worship minister here at Brentwood Baptist, and we're going to talk about what it looks like to build a healthy team culture, communicate clearly, and care for the people behind the platform. Let's jump in. Travis.
All right.
Welcome, man. Welcome to the hot seat.
Thanks.
Oh, well, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty good.
Feeling good?
I mean, yeah.
Okay. I feel like I can say this now. I've known you for a long time, and I know that by way of your background, you have a lot of experience talking about this topic. Like, you've been a part of teams, you've led teams, both in church world and out of church world. You have experienced pretty much probably every personality on the spectrum of personalities, right? And you've learned how to navigate through all that. So I feel like
Have I though? I don't know. I don't know.
There's a lot of good things that I know that we're going to talk about today. But I think just to jump in, when you think about a healthy worship team, like within the church, what comes to mind first? What are a couple traits that you would want to see? Like, either I'm walking into a good and healthy team right now, or that you look around on the team you've already been leading and you kind of look at markers and you go, I think we're in a pretty good place right now.
You know, I was thinking about that question. I was thinking about this whole conversation and how potentially slow I'm going to look, or just not smart. Because when I think about my answers, everything feels so elementary. Like, I think sometimes leadership, sometimes building culture, sometimes we skip the basic, simple things in lieu of trying to build something that's impressive. Which, when that's the goal, then you're jumping over some foundational principles, relational principles, culture principles that are important. And so, you know, it's a lot, Mac, it's a lot the same way that I arrange music too. I mean, I always say that if you do my arrangements at your church, it's because you want to hit the average guy, the average girl. I'm like your average worship leader. So, and I'm not just being like falsely humble. I mean that really, literally. And I think that my ideas about culture and leadership are similar. So when I'm looking at a worship culture, if I'm helping a church, or even my own church, or one of our 9 campuses here, the things I look for are your volunteers happy? Are they serving? Are they serving at a full capacity with joy? Is there community being born within your group? Like, are these people talking on Tuesday and Wednesday? Are they praying for one another? I'm just looking for a fluidity of a disciple's life that comes from serving together. So that's the first thing I look for. Are they happy?
Yep.
And are they serving well? If they're not, if there's constant tension or contention, or if there are people that always feel like they don't get enough, or they don't give enough, or those kinds of things, those are things to address, you know. But I look, generally speaking, is within the context of our ministry, are people serving out of joy to serve the Lord and to serve together. That's kind of, I mean, and that's easy for us to go. Like, we're not setting some kind of bar that is a mystery for people to find. You know, we can all do that.
That's right. And I think with low-hanging fruit, you still have to pick the low-hanging fruit. So start with that.
That's right.
Yeah, that's really good. Culture, it feels almost like this mysterious word sometimes. It's hard to pinpoint and define culture. Coaches of sports teams want it. and crave it. CEOs of major companies crave it. Church leaders, pastors, worship leaders crave it, desire it, want to shape it. And so in this context with culture, as you look at like, hey, the thing with culture, I'm either influencing it and shaping it positively or negatively, but there's really not much neutral about culture, right? Like if your hands are off, culture is still being shaped and formed. It's just probably not in a positive way. So intentionally and leaning into, I want to make sure the culture of this team is right. How do you intentionally do that with the team? And maybe like for those listening and watching who already have teams and have been with them for a bit, is there anything that you can do to nudge the culture in that right direction if it maybe feels a little off? Like, what are those ways that you do that?
Yeah, that's a great conversation to have. We could talk a lot of avenues. Yeah. I mean, I could speak very specifically to my experience here, 6 years almost at Brentwood, and I think when you consider that, I think one of the first things you want to do is be sure that you have shared your vision, that people know your vision, that you're not a mystery, and that you know what the goals are and that you share them together. And then the second level of that is, what is the order of those goals? Because, so for instance, my goal, say for instance, for my choir, my goal is for them to be authentic worshipers, and my goal is for them to be excellent. Right? So those are both good goals that we all understand, that we share, but there is an order to that, right?
Yep.
So authenticity always trumps any kind of performative excellence. Always. It always does.
Good. Yep.
So understanding, you begin to shift that culture when you share it, when you share what your goals are, and then you share what your priorities are. So we had some shifting to do here. We, not that they were wrong or that I wasn't coming in with some kind of, I'm going to make this different. You jump into the culture that you're assigned to, and you begin to assess, and then you ask God, where do we all go from here? Because it doesn't matter if I've come from this church. Well, this is my assignment now, and this is where we all are. So where do you want us to go, and then how do we get here? So I believe it's understanding that you have to talk, you have to communicate, you have to share with your volunteers, you have to share with your musicians, you share with your worship leaders. Hey, this is our goal for Sunday after Sunday. This is our goal for this event. Now, how do we get there? So it's just the constant, like, letting them in on where God is leading you to lead them.
Yeah.
Don't be a mystery, and don't be inconsistent. Like, if you're going to say that we're not performative, like if you're going to say that authenticity trumps performance at all times, then you have to hold that steady across every kind of musical boundary, every kind of event, every kind of Sunday, that you can still be excellent, but at the end of the day, if we're not real, it's worthless.
And you've got to model that first and foremost.
And you have to model that. Yeah, absolutely.
On and off platform.
That's right.
Yeah, that's really good. Creatives are a unique breed, right? Like, it's just, if you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. But with a team of creative people and giving space for them to make maybe some creative decisions and feel like they're themselves, but also still driving and rowing in the same direction. Like, hey, yes, I want to make sure you have and hold your own individual traits and qualities and things we love about you, while we're all still going the same direction. Within that, I know I found this to be true, and I know you have as well. The personalities are complex, and there's many on different ends of the spectrum. And so when we talk about things like excellence versus extending grace, or maybe those aren't juxtaposed, maybe it's excellence and extending grace, or also just like maybe how to care for or correct or guide egos that may be present either in yourself or in others that you are serving. How do you walk through that, what can feel like a minefield at times with creatives? I mean, how do you wrangle that and make it in one vehicle that's going the same way?
Yes. You said some great things in there already, and I'm weird because I'm a creative who doesn't operate like a creative. Okay. Because I'm so, I don't know if it matters here that I'm an Enneagram 7. I'm an enthusiast.
It matters.
So relationship, that's going to trump everything for me, even my own creativity. So sometimes relating to those creatives is hard for me, but what you said, and you do want to give everybody space to be creative, to give an expression that's fulfilling to them. Mm-hmm. And so the way I do like to lead is to give everybody almost a maximum, I don't want to say undefined, boundaryless, but I want to give people a lot of room. Okay. And then start pulling in gently. And the way I do it is it goes back to the shared goals. That at the end of the day, do the choices that we're making musically, not just musically, anything in regards to worship ministry, does it serve the people? So if you have, for instance, a vocalist that's really incredible, really creative, but begins to sing something that stops serving the people and starts serving the song, that's where you start pulling in. But you can do that by not attacking their choices, because you take them back to the motive and the goal and go, that's beautiful, and I wish I could do that. You're amazing. I think if you pull back here on that chorus and all those last choruses, if you pull back, I think it'll serve the people better. Yeah, because they're gonna stay with you. They're gonna know what to sing. They're gonna know how to respond. So it is give them a lot of space, but be ready to rein them in when necessary, because you share the goal of this is for the people. Yeah. That makes sense?
That does. And I think the only way you can make those very acute observations and changes is if you know the people.
You know the people, and you have a voice in their lives.
You've got to beat on
safe. Yeah. They trust you and they feel safe.
Yeah, that's right. I love that. Okay. Yeah. Let's shift gears a little bit from culture. Let's talk about communication. Because again, I think a lot of different people receive and give communication in very unique and different ways, right? Right. But this, I think, will hit home for a lot of our listeners for when you're trying to gear up for a hard conversation and you're needing to convey something that may be heavier than an Enneagram 7 would like to do. How do you correct and love without totally crushing their spirit and leaving them going, I'm the worst, and their heads down? How do you do that well? Because I know that's critical to maintaining a good relationship with our team.
Right. I am a 7, but I'm a wing 8.
There you go.
And it's a conflicted person, but I will say I kind of love those moments, because I'm also I'm hopelessly optimistic in everything in my life. I don't know why. I just think there's a win for every bad situation.
Sure.
And so sometimes that drives me in those conversations. I also, along with that, believe that I think there can be a win in every hard conversation. Along with that, I do believe there's a positive way to say almost everything.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
So what I mean by that, if I've got to pull, if I got to pull someone in, if I think they're not their gifts aren't suited for where they're serving. Okay. And it feels really personal. I think that where you start is what you do see, and then that's positive.
Yeah. Okay.
And that you say, for instance, if someone is leading a song and it's not working, what you do is before you start saying it's not working, you start identifying what you think would work for them. And so you start talking with the end in mind that let's get you rightly assigned, because we're all a puzzle. many gifts, one Spirit.
Preach it.
And so we're all just fitting together. And sometimes you can take a piece and go, okay, well, that's not where that goes. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean it doesn't belong in the puzzle. It goes right over here. So finding ways to say, I cherish your gift and I love what you bring to this team. I think if we shifted this right here, I think you're going to feel more fulfilled in your service and your calling. I think this is limiting you. I think when you say, I think this assignment is limiting you, better than when you would say, you're limiting this. This moment's not working you're not working for this moment. You say, this isn't working for you is the better way to say it.
Turning it around.
You kind of turn it around and say, I want to put you in a place that you are operating fully. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's the way to do it. Now, sometimes people are in the right place. They just need to do something better.
Yeah, that's true.
And, the story we were talking about before we started, we have 13 years of working together. But, where you just go, I would always start with, this is a struggle of mine. When sometimes when I lead this kind of song or this kind of something, I feel this.
Okay.
And I feel like you might be feeling that. So let me set you free to be a little more animated.
Vulnerability.
Let me set you free, yes. Because I've been where you are.
Gotcha, yeah.
I have had this weakness, or I've had experience with this kind of thing. So if you're not going to crush them if everything you say is always for them.
Yep.
Even if it means a reassignment or a correction, if they trust you enough to know that you're moving them forward, then it's going to work.
Yeah. I love that so much. I think there's so much wisdom in that to invert something that's hard or maybe feels negative with some positive things around it. Couch it with positive. It's not deception. It's not manipulation. No. It's wisdom in humbling yourself and saying, I've felt this way before. I know how that is. Those things, like you said.
Yes, I feel like Cirque du Soleil sometimes. Like I'm doing so many flips to say something hard a nice way. But at the end of the day, I think we all profit from it because I do believe everybody has a lane. And part of leadership is just helping maintain those lanes for people where they need just a little bit of help and
steering it,
doing it a way that keeps them moving forward and not stalling on the side of the road.
That's so good. And I do think whether they leave that conversation still feeling like, oh man, that's kind of a gut punch, or whether they immediately go, I can see that he's totally right. I do think eventually it turns and they go, thank you.
Right.
Whether it's now or later. Thank you for having that conversation with me.
And there are many times that they're having inward battles, but when you say, let's try something different, they're going to go,
that's true. Maybe some relief in that.
So rough. I was so nervous about that, more often than not.
Yeah, that's good. With teams and communicating outside of Sunday, what is maybe one or two things you like to tell your team consistently before Sunday hits? Just that maybe most teams or worship leaders would overlook as, man, that's a really good message to remind or to say to my team, before Sunday comes, to keep this in mind as we're gearing towards the weekend. Are there any reminders or things you like to say that keeps people pointed towards Sunday and towards that vision of what we're accomplishing together as a church family?
I do like to build up every Sunday as an important event. Like I want to give my team something to look forward to every week. And so it's my goal to get them on the same page thinking about where the pastor is going to be, where the kind of overall feeling of the day. If we're teaching a new song, I want them to be thinking about the content and what we're gathering around together for the day. Not just learn these songs, see you then. Not just, 2 extra choruses at the end of this one. Like, we'll get all that communication. That's fine. That's a no-brainer. But the idea that we're sharing an assignment is what I want to tell them on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay.
And so, that way, the spiritual dividends to serving, the stakes for it are raised because you're invested more than just as a musician.
Yeah.
Hopefully, by God's grace, this is not a gig, right?
Yeah.
So
you're raising it in a healthy way, not like unnecessary pressure put on.
Right,
but
right.
like,
No.
This is a big deal.
This is a big deal. This is a big deal. This is not. We're not phoning this in. So there's a spiritual investment to every Sunday. A lot of I come from an event background. I've led worship for events, my whole life. And so it's easy to go, big event, let down, big event, let down. But the joy of service in the local church is that every Sunday's always coming. It's also the bad news, but it's mostly the good news. That every Sunday's coming, and every Sunday is an event in someone's life. And I'm talking about a spiritual event.
Yeah.
And so getting your team on that page gets them excited to serve. It gets them up early enough to be on time and go, let's be on time because this is what we're talking about. And we're going to want to pray into that a little bit more before the service. So it's really that spiritual investment just as much as a musical investment in preparation.
Yeah. Love it.
And again, that's low-hanging fruit. I'm not telling you anything you don't really kind of know somewhere in your spirit.
But it needs to be picked. Right. The low-hanging fruit needs to be picked. I love that. I got you. We talked at the beginning about, we'll touch on caring for your team, caring for your people. I think directing culture and being intentional about shaping it well is caring. Communicating clearly is caring. But let's talk about like when I think a lot of times it can feel like a rat race, especially in certain seasons where maybe even the calendar year, there's just certain stretches that feel extra intensive. Like there's an extra event here, or there's a conference there, or I'm doing a team night here, but that's a lot of planning. And I still have to do Sunday.
Right.
How do you know when someone on your team needs a break? Because we also know there are certain instruments that maybe we're thinner on, and we're kind of riding on them, every week. Like we're leaning on them. It's the same person every Sunday after Sunday, especially if your church is smaller and you just don't have a huge pool of people to pick from. You got people that are serving a lot. So how do you know when someone needs a break, and what does that care look like? Because usually I feel like it might, on a spiritual level, is usually where that person needs a break as well. Aside from just physical rest. How do you approach that? How do you care for them?
I think that's one of the big spiritual responsibilities that we have as worship leaders, that is our spiritual responsibility to pray for our team,
mm-hmm.
to pray for them by name, to keep tabs on their life. I'm not trying to give worship leaders an assignment that's too much, but I mean, just to, as you live life in and out, week in, week out, to be attentive to what the fruit of their lives are.
Yeah.
And to spiritually know, as you pray for them, and ask the Holy Spirit to give me insight. Ask the Holy Spirit to give you insight about your team.
Sure, yeah.
And I can think a couple of years ago, we have a guy that plays piano, plays keys, the most brilliant guy you've ever known, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he plays every Sunday. He's the only one of us that's on the platform every Sunday, right?
Yeah.
And it's a lot. And he comes ready, and he's just
the only one who can do what he can do.
Yes, right. Yeah. But it occurred to me a couple of years ago, I wonder if anybody has ever just said, you want every fourth Sunday off, you want every fifth Sunday off. And it's just something in my spirit was watching him, because he's very busy outside of church as well. And I approached him, and he was so grateful for that and so gracious for that. He's the kind of guy that would have never, ever asked for like a regular Sunday off. He just wouldn't have done it. It just isn't in his nature. And that's another thing you got to kind of watch out for those people who will take on and take on and take on to their own detriment.
Yeah, so true.
And so he was like, I really appreciate that. I think that would be great. And so that was a rhythm that we created. But and I'm not saying, look at me, I took the spiritual responsibility to note that, but it really is us as leaders, we need to be mindful of the whole of their lives, not just what they do for us on Sunday morning.
So good, yeah.
And so when we do that, just kind of ask the Holy Spirit, give me wisdom on their lives. Where do I need to lean in? And to your point, seasons get busy, right? And there are certain times of the calendar that feel overwhelming, and we don't have extra time to be overtly relational, right?
Right. It's inevitable.
It's inevitable. So that's why when you do have those times, I kind of stockpile relational things. Like when it's a downtime, like I really start leaning in and start creating some things that I'll be able to check on in more easily later when it's busy.
Like that.
Just to stay in their lives and be mindful that they're not just, she's not just the electric player that plays every other Sunday.
That's right.
She's a person with a life and a walk in Christ. And, part of discipleship is understanding the whole person of those people that are in our team.
Yeah, that's so good. And I do think it helps us guard against viewing our people like it's just a transactional relationship.
Right.
What can you do for me? How can you better the team? But it really treats them as, who are you? And I love you, care for you because of who you are, not just what you do, what your skill sets are.
Yes.
That's very wise.
That's right.
To touch on that. So thank you. You have so many, I don't know how you do it because you have so many people in your life that you do care for. And it's not just an occasional, hey, you good? It's like, I know there's so many people in your orbit that feel cared for by you. You have a gift that is different than others' capacity for being able to care for so many in different pockets of your life, in different worlds that you dive into and live in. With that said, as we land the plane a little bit and just close with maybe a vision for leadership for those listening or watching, if a worship leader could change one thing in the next month with their team to lead their team better, what would that one thing be? And maybe it's another one of those low-hanging fruits, but what would it be? Just one small step towards a better team for leading them.
Yeah. What is that? Mm-hmm. It's a great question.
No pressure, yeah.
How about just on the next episode? As I look at my fake watch. Aren't we out of time? Yeah. You know what? I think that you will never not benefit by rallying your people around the idea that we never lead with music in mind. We lead with people in mind. And it's always bringing, so for instance, we have a night of worship this week. There's a lot of intense music-y things happening. We're going to have very limited rehearsal for very big songs. And we're going to get the tension to be super music-y. Sure. I've never said that word in my life, and I just said it twice. Yeah, here comes music-y. 3 times music-y. Is going to be great.
Sure.
But to remind your people, remind your team that we're people focused, we're people driven, and so there's a reason for the songs that we choose. There's a reason for the keys we sing them in. There's a reason for how many times we repeat something. It's all designed for the people.
Yeah.
And so we probably tend to drift away from that. And even coming off of Christmas into a new year where Christmas can so bend you towards performative things.
That's right. That's true.
It's a good season to come around and go, this is for the people. This is for people. If we cannot cast a net of worship that grasps most of our room, then we're doing something wrong. So the understanding of that really then helps us. It affects how we play. True. It affects how we interact. It affects how we worship. And so I even go so far as to say, and I know this is probably not really true, but my worship on Sunday, it's my work is for people. My worship is for God, but my work is for the people because He loves His people.
Yeah.
And He wants His people to worship on Sunday mornings.
Put that on a bumper sticker.
And so my job is to get them to Him. So I can't get so lost in my own personal worship on Sunday morning that I'm unable to lead them. So my real worship comes before Sunday morning because Sunday is a people day. And that's probably, I don't know.
I hate that we have to stop. I want to keep going. That's so good. And I'll maybe spill into the next episode. But man, you were sitting on that, Ants. You didn't. You were faking that you didn't know what to say. That's so good.
I'm just talking.
So good. No, and man, thank you for the conversation today. This was incredibly helpful, enlightening, and just to remember the basics, the fundamentals of why we do what we do. So good. Leading worship well is about more than music. It's about people. And so if today's episode encouraged you, we'd love for you to continue growing with us at the Elevate Church Conference. Travis and I will be there. It's on September 21st and 22nd, 2026. You can learn more and register at elevatechurchconference.com. Thanks for listening to the Brentwood Baptist Leadership Podcast. I will see you next week.